Welcome to Eve Singularity. I'm Major Freak. This is about unanchoring an upwell and the lessons learned today and memories of years ago, helping to shape, just how to do it right and what I did wrong. So here's what I did wrong. I failed to check my cargo capacity. I failed to realize that I could use a cheaper ship when I was using a more expensive ship. But of course, I'm forgiving myself for those mistakes because at the end of the day, all went well. It could have gone horribly wrong, but it didn't. So it worked out okay. So yay me. All right, so here's what I also did wrong. I listened to somebody I should not have, and I should have remembered what I did years ago when taking somebody else's, or taking care of somebody else's upwells. When you scoop that, it was easy back then. The noobs will just unanchor it, and if you say Athenor, and it says Athenor, like Athenor, no like name or anything, it just says Athenor or whatever. It just says the upwell type and then the upwell type, name and name the same, and it's usually way off on DScan. It's a dash. You could actually right click and warp to it using the right click, even if it's far, far away. And you just warp right up to it and scoop it. You'd go instantly suspect. And it's been so long that when some troll in Alliance fooled, he'd been doing something wrong that I'll explain how not to do an upwell. He convinced me by just pure bullshit that no, long experience. Yeah, you don't go suspect. So that changed I was kidding out and got ready. Get ready beforehand. Get ready 12 hours at least beforehand with your gear. Be prepared to be on login screens. So I was doing some things right. The other thing I got wrong was because I did not realize, because he bullshitted me, that when you scoop the upwell itself and it's not yours, you go instantly suspect. I'd forgotten my memory a while ago, and I want to believe people. I want to trust in people. Especially a-holes who are mean to me. It's not Stockholm syndrome. It's just somebody is polite to you for one day or two, and then you go, okay, we can build on this, and he gave me some information that was completely false, and he knew it, and hoped I'd get in trouble. What he'd been doing all day was whining like crazy. Nobody told him exactly what time was coming out. We were all asleep, basically. And he made in such a way that we thought he knew something we didn't. So it's like, all right, well, okay, maybe he knows something. What he did was, and this is what I saw him doing later on after waking up, he'd gotten his freighter nosed up. And I'll show you how far you can actually get to the core. And if he's got a freighter, it would be farther still. And it wouldn't be good enough. It was an idea, but it was just bone stupid. And I'll tell you why. This is not the way you grab an unanchoring POS. He had a freighter, and he had a webbing vigil right next to it. But what use is a webbing vigil if you're under power going obliquely up to grab something? That the web's not going to do you a damn bit of good if you're under speed traveling a direction. You'd have to slow down, but that would take time. And when you go suspect, you could go right up to it, but somebody could bump you and steal it. There's tons of different things So this is how not to do it. So he shoved himself nose first with his freighter right in here. He got in as close as humanly possible to right down here, just under here. He can actually get closer to the middle. Come on, get down there. Gotten it? He just probably spent hours doing it. You know, fuming away that nobody told him exactly when it was coming out. And it's like, dude, you knew we were going to sleep, and you're doing this on purpose just to make a big drama scene. And, of course, let everybody in the frickin' universe know that something was about to be going down. Luckily, we have horseshoes up our butts, and either people got dead bored watching him, or just didn't notice him. So he'd gotten, and you have to bookmark it. So save location. He's gotten his vigil. He'd gotten his vigil about, and it was way up here. He'd gotten it shoved up here somewhere. He'd probably gotten it as close as possible, but it was still 2,500 at least from it. And he'd had his freighter right about freaking here. Just jammed up there as close as humanly possible. And that bookmark is going to be, it was probably like 5 clicks. He was 5 clicks. He would have to travel upwards this way, away from any ability to warp directly ahead to a celestial. And he would have been either, if it, okay, so it disappears, depopulates, and it appears right here along with a cargo hangar bay, hangar container right next to it. Both of them will give you suspect. Now he convinced me that scooping the, well, it's, you know, you ever scooped a drone? So, yeah. And I think, do you go suspect if you scoop a POS module that's unanchored? It's been so long, I forget. I could test that easy enough. Alright, so he was here, fuming away for hours. And he was like, well, you didn't tell me. It's like, well, A, it's OPSEC, dude. You know, why should we tell every CEO of a random corp in our alliance that this is happening? I mean, just ask yourself how silly for OPSEC that is. The owner knew. He was going to tell us when it was coming out, hopefully. And it turned out it's a week, but an hour. And a bit, actually. It's about up to 10 minutes. So it's a week plus an hour plus about 10-ish minutes ish. It's probably a random thing. Did you ever know that Rex and jet cans will depopulate up to 15 minutes after that 2-hour window? That's gone back to 2005 maybe when I discovered that. It's not exactly 2 hours. It's 2 hours and a wee bit. And it's kind of random too. So just realize that if you're waiting for that hour mark right after that 1 week, just know it's a little bit longer. So don't get too excited when it takes a wee bit longer. Now, the proper way to bloody do this is you've got two situations. One, if you're unanchoring a fortizar, it's ridiculously, like, it's ridiculous. Fortizar. It didn't take up, I swear it took up 90,000 cubic meters. But yeah, you'll need a freighter. You won't be able to get that with anything. You might be able to get it with an orca, but I seriously doubt it. Let's check it out. Because we're on the topic, might as well do it smart. Now, the best way to do this is make sure, if it's somebody else's corp and you're helping them, make sure you get your jump, because you got a week, make sure you get your jump freighter pilot in that corp. Say, hey, I know you're going to do it, but just in case you need backup and you can't come online, accept my application, and then I'll just go back to my old corp. You know, might mess up the corp history. I like a clean corp history, but you know, it's just, this needs to be done. So get that jump freighter pilot in the corp. Okay, so go to rigs, cargo hold optimization. Let's go all the way. Oops, can't. It's getting silly, of course. This is ridiculously expensive. Upgrades. I'm just showing the options. This is not what I'd recommend, but yeah, you'd have enough easily. But it would mean you wouldn't have any. Yeah, you'd have. If you're going to do this, you'd probably want a different orca that you can do this with that's specialized, but I wouldn't recommend it at all. Mainly because if you have to do it this way, there's a better way to do it. You get a freighter and say you get on the opposite side, you get 1,000, you get a ping using a fast ship on the opposite side of this right here. Just simulate it. Just pretend it's 1,000. So what you do is, what you want is an upwell on the far side, an upwell you can warp to with tether. Or dock, or whatever. It's best with tether. This is why it's good to plant upwells on the ecliptic, so you have options like this. So let's say you've got an upwell right where this is that you can warp to, and you get a ping like 1,000 plus whatever on grid. Over here and get it exactly in line with this. That's why it's bad to have it off the ecliptic, because yeah, if you warp your freighter on top of here, once it'll just disappear and it'll appear right here, and you warp to the bookmark. You can't warp to that stuff, so you warp to your bookmark, and so yeah, inline, whatever. So you'll warp there, and to get it perfect, you know, align it as close as possible. Get it as close as possible, and get that bookmark set up, and then you can warp to your other bookmark that you've made right there. You can't warp to it right away, of course. You got to wait till it depopulates, but you'll be aligned, right? You'll be approaching it. And don't do this an hour ahead of time to get it set up for your freighter or whatever that you're going to warp in at. Get it like that, and then you'll be able to warp in. Now, two things are going to occur here. You have to, one, open the jet can or the hangar container in order to move the core into your cargo. You also need to right click and scoop the upwell into your cargo. So if say worst comes to worst, you don't have, and it's a fortizar too, you don't have an in-corp jump freighter pilot, what you do is you get a freighter and you get to the spot like 15 minutes before, 5 minutes before, doesn't matter. You know this in an hour, after that 1 week, plus about 5 to 10 whatever minutes randomly. The rec used to be between 5 and 15 minutes, if I remember correctly. That's old data. I'm sure it's still true. So you'll warp to it, and you'll open up the jet can, because opening up a jet can won't incur a suspect. You'll hear ding, like a cash register when it goes suspect. So you warp to it, open up the jet can, you'll have your cargo there, then you'll be able to drag the core and then right click and scoop the... Now, of course, what you want to be doing when you land is hopefully you're not beyond it. Hopefully you're just before. Because what you want to be doing is, while you're doing this, you open the jet can and you align to the upwell that you're going to warp to safety to. And you start aligning to that, so you're picking up speed. So you're picking up speed, and you've opened it. You then scoop, and then you drag from the already open jet can, and then you go suspect. If, of course, you're not in corp, right? If you're in the same lines, you'll still have them. And then you'll just warp to that upwell. Ideally, since you're suspect, you'll have a person, a webbing ship to web you to make sure you can get to that warp speed even quicker. Because the worst comes to worst, somebody's neutral with a bumper ship, or ready to point you, or targeting you as you land and ready to point you as you go suspect. So you want to be into warp almost immediately. Yeah, and worst comes to worst, if they're there trying to point you, you can have people there who are prepared to volley them off the field, basically. You're dealing with what is 13 plus billion-esque. You can risk a few kill rates and tornado deaths, the costs of that. So yeah. You've got bumpers on standby. You've got gank ships on standby. And act normal, too. The key is not to hover around like a nervous Nelly the entire freaking day in a freighter hugging the upwell. That is the absolute deliberate... Yeah, it takes skill to be that incompetent about unanchoring. But, yeah, just act normal. I've helped steal so many low-sec posses because some noob was just acting out of the ordinary, and it just piqued my interest. I went and checked, and there was the you had to be on grid to see the unanchoring. Or no, could you? I think you had to be on grid, or was it system-wide? I forget. Anyways, something was happening, and you go, oh, that's curious. You go check it out, and sure enough, somebody's doing something stupid and vulnerable because they get nervous and they start wanting to be around way more, and it just raises your interest, and it's not something you want to do. Okay, so that's done. You've warped to safety. Congratulations. There is another option, and it's a jump freighter. But in the future, because when I was told that bullshit, I thought, okay, I'll warp in my jump freighter, scoop up the upwell without a suspect, which was dead wrong. But I had no idea. I didn't hear the ping, and I had people in. I wouldn't have even seen it. There was a ding and a suspect thing, but it was quiet. And I was busy, so I probably wouldn't have heard it if it was louder. And I just trusted that it wasn't going to suspect me. Yeah, no kidding, eh? But if I'd known that, or if I had ignored that douchebag, the same one who hugged the station, I know, right? And the same one who ganked an alt of a blue. It was neutral, but nobody else was killing it for hours and hours except this guy. So yeah, go figure, right? But if I'd known, and if I'd remembered about the suspect from years ago, I would have gone, okay, well, we can't contact this guy. He'd been offline for a freaking week. Then 2 hours before it was unanchoring, he said, oh yeah, by the way, it's unanchoring at that point. And I was like, oh, that's an hour longer than I expected to get ready, but okay, cheers. My wife's going to murder me. But next time in the future, I'll know that it's a week and an hour and plus a few minutes. So that's cool. I would have said, look, dude, we wanted to get in a jump freighter pilot in your corp. I'm willing to risk it because I ordered you to unanchor it. And this is what I would have done. I would have done the same thing. I wouldn't have, well, I probably would have used the same bookmark that I instructed you guys to do, just in case something happened to my Sino. But what I'd done, and I don't need to be proud of myself. I've done it so many times that it becomes second nature. That in fleet Sino, lit, then you warp, grab it, and you sign your jump, and you dock. Done. And I would have landed, opened up the jet can, taken a breath, made sure my Sino was up, drag, right click, jump. There's nothing you can do. If there was anybody on field at the time, we would have lapped them off the field or bumped anybody trying to bump me. But at that speed, yeah. And we'd know exactly around the time it was going to happen. And yeah, it's just a matter of acting natural, keeping people on logging screens, getting staged ahead of time. Because why not, right? I mean, you mine 8 hours a day or something like that in a game, right? So why not spend the time to invest in staging? It's a smart thing to do. So now, questions. You're probably like, okay, why don't I just stay in the fortizar or the upwell itself, and then when it disappears and turns into these, I can just simply appear on grid and snap it up right away. I'll be so close to it. Well, number one, it's not a wreck. It's not going to be a wreck. It's not going to populate you right here. You're going to be at speed, and you're going to have the undocking thing. You're going to appear at whatever appropriate port is going to be. These are capitals. This is command industrial and freighters and battleships, and these are battle cruisers and below. Okay, the closest you're ever going to get is here, but it's still going to be, you're going to be going at speed, and it takes you a few seconds to populate. Remember that. And in those few seconds, you could be warping or being a effing idiot and try to slow boat it from your superstructure area. Not advised. I mean, I'm sure he could have been right frickin' here, but then you could have been vulnerable to bumping. But I need to test bumping on freighters. They've really nerfed bumping on freighters a lot by a huge margin. Anyway, so yeah, if you're going to use a jump freighter and you're going to grab both and you go be suspect, make sure you don't have bulkhead modules on. I just thought it was me scooping one, so I had bulkheads on. The mistakes made. It's too funny. But yeah, next time it happens, if we ask somebody to unanchor, or somebody is unanchoring something and wants help, I'll be like, you, my jump freighter pilot, in your corp, no questions, done, period. Or else I'm not helping you. It's just, a jump freighter is so easy to do. It's if there was too many things, neutrals on field, will be like, just cancel your unanchoring. I have a video about how to be sneaky about delaying your unanchoring, because when you can decommission and cancel decommission and start it all over again, right, at any time during that week. So if you start unanchoring and you suspect somebody might have been watching, well, you just cancel it and wait a couple of days, do it again. It's not like they're going to get a notification of it. The only way they get a notification is if you unanchor the same time you rip all your service modules out and it goes low power. That's when, if they have something like, they can go up to any tower, open the sucker up and drop it in, and when it goes low power, you get a notification. Like I keep metal scraps in all the nearby upwells because I'm an intel specialist. I'll do that. I want to know, who's in my neighborhood. Anyways, so that's another thing done. Jump freighter pilot in corp. Now, of course, other upwells that aren't as big don't need a jump freighter, and it would be easier to get make sure you had a DST pilot in the corp itself, and that way you could do the same thing without getting suspect, and that would be key. It's very dangerous otherwise. But if you're forced to get that freighter and warp it, scoop it, and then get web to warp straight ahead to an upwell with tether, or worst comes to worst, a POS or something. So that's it. That's the entirety of what I've learned. Hopefully that helps you guys. If you're nervous about unanchoring something, know that it's doable. Just act. Just if you don't go to that area a lot, make your new routine during the week to just go there with a character and just travel through. Check out who the neutrals are. Just keep going through there, like not constantly, but every once in a while, just go through there. I mean, you'll eventually be able to see a lot what's going on in that system. And if somebody's keeping an eye on that area around the time, or not, at any time during the day, do it, they'll just think, oh, that's his usual behavior. And when you do actually start getting prepared, if they see you in the system, they'll just assume you're doing the same thing you're doing before. And if you keep offline out your login screen until about 5 or 15 minutes before the action, if you do that, it'll just look, oh, it's just them, they're going to leave soon, and they just go back to whatever they're doing and not get curious. And that's the point. Don't make people curious. Act natural, and it'll save your bacon. Now, I had horseshoes up my butt, basically because I'm sure that the freighter pilot who was being a douche just either bored people or just wasn't paid attention to. I'm just very lucky. This is 13 billion. I mean, who wouldn't want to try to steal it, right? Or take advantage of anybody going suspect, or they're like, wait, that's one corp, why are other corp people in different corps in the same alliance hanging around it? They'd be like, oh, that owner's not going to be available, and everybody's going to go suspect when they grab stuff, because they'll be more experienced than you. Remember, the people who are trying to steal it are probably more experienced than you are, because this is probably the first time you're doing something like this, right? So right, so what do? Best thing to do for, I hope you don't have a fortizar, but if you got an Athenor, best thing to do, act natural. Don't be docked waiting for it to depopulate so you can scoop it. Be cloaked, probably with a Viator that has enough cargo space to scoop both the core. Like, how much is the Athenor? Like, I'm sure it's only like 6,000, right? I used to just need the Viator because we never had cores, right? So volume 8, okay. So you can do 8. What's the core? Athenor core. is, oh, hell. Hell yes. So yeah, just fire, be cloaked, add a ping, warp to it. And since it'll be yours, you don't need to worry about suspect. You just open up, scoop, scoop. You're not suspect. And you warp away. Or you just cloak up because nothing's around you. You've just taken out. The problem is you might have other corp hangars if it's a free port and stuff, so you won't be able to cloak up right away. But yeah, just have that. Remember, just be in line with a celestial so you can just warp right ahead. Just slow down, open it up, make sure you're not, it'd be nice if you're on the far side. If you're not, well, you want to do it fast, right? So if you're on the far side, don't start aligning. If you're on the near side, start aligning as you open up that hangar container. Get ready, take a breath, drag, warp. Done. And you won't be flashy because it's your own corp. But yeah, I'm just telling you the same way to do it. That's basically it. I'm sure Ratars are the same. Astra houses are like if I was on anchoring, I don't have a core, by the way, but it's 500 and I think 8,000 too. Yeah, 8,000, same size. So yeah, no problem. No sweat. Yeah, you can use this strap like how could I steal something if somebody was an anchoring? Do they look like all different corps in the same alliance? Means the owner is going to be away. You can get suspect on them. When they do yank it, are they going to be incompetent about it? Are they going to have a freighter nudged against this? Are they all docked up waiting to grab it as it depopulates? They'll get kicked out this direction. They'll be too far from it. You'll warp in. Scoop, they're gone. You're gone. That kind of stuff. Yeah, and yeah, the number of times you see on DScan, Athenor, dash, and you just go right-click, warp, and I'm always flying around with industrials. That's my life in Eve. Scoop, done. So you're flashy, you warp off, cloak up, whatever. Yeah, just amazing how easy it is. Just blew me away. Anyways, I think that's about it. Yeah, and keep OPSEC. Don't send pings out or Nakamura time timers or any idiocy like that. If you're going to do something like this, tell people, hey, we're unanchoring something. Obviously, you can see it unanchoring, and I'm sure a whole bunch of people are going to get the notification within a day or three, halfway through when you start ripping stuff out. The service modules, I would recommend that if you're doing this, you offline and rip out the last service module that's online, like the clone bay at the very last half hour, like last 15 minutes. So if anybody's got like a metal scrap in there and it goes low power, they get the notification, but way too late to do anything about it. You could do it a day ahead of time, and they'll see unanchoring, and they'll just assume you started unanchoring then, or maybe you're preparing to unanchor right then that day. So if you do it a couple of days before or a day before, just randomize it, right? They won't know. Yeah, the worst thing to do is to offline it, rip out, and then start anchoring at the same time. That's really bad because they will just go, a week from now, okay? Most people aren't that good at managing time, so I'm sure you get away with it. Whatever. So, yeah. I even had, when I was doing my Athenos, I had my moon mining operation still going until the last hour. It fractured at the last hour, and then I grab my stuff. But, if you do it too much, they might start to get wise about your tactics. But yeah, just act normal. Don't do anything hasty that would give any notifications. People are going low power structure and stuff like that. It's just act normal. Keep it looking good. If it says an anchoring and you've still got weapons in it, they're going to be, oh, that's interesting. I don't want to word act that right now. It's, yeah, and most people just want easy kills. Low risk, high reward. They're not willing to wait for it. Anyways, some are, and we were lucky. We were very lucky. And that's because day in, day out, I just acted normal. Just didn't do anything crazy, didn't hover around staring at it with combat ships, didn't do anything like that. Just played it cool, kept OPSEC, just the smallest circle of people who absolutely needed to know. And I told them early on, I think it's a week, and I think they, that was communicated, I'm sure, to people in the Alliance. Didn't know exactly when. I didn't know exactly when until 2 hours before. I would have liked to get more notice, so I could have told people a little bit more. But that was probably the smartest thing. Keep OPSEC, And yeah, it just amazed me the cavalier way some people treated it. It's like, okay, hey, what do we know? He's ripped out all his modules, including the service, the very same time I suspect the same time as he started unanchoring, which I figured was a certain time during the day when he was talking to me, and he said he did it. I had no reason to doubt it. The people who were bitching and complaining and whining were doubting that. It's like, why would you doubt that? It just seemed odd and bullshit. From the same troll with the freighter and all that other stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. There's always one in the Alliance. So, yeah, it's like they had all this, they had a week's notice, and they knew if everything went low power, people were going to get notifications, but they were like running around screaming at each other like, oh, better get your stuff out of there. But it's like, yeah, but they got the notification. That should have been enough. You didn't have to say it was unanchoring at the same, if you do this, don't know that if people have stuff in there and you rip out all the service modules a couple of days before it unanchors, they're going to get the notification. And then you say, oh, hey, by the way, we are unanchoring. I counseled the leadership to go, don't tell anybody, pay them if they've already gotten the notification, and unwisely so, it should have been a couple of days beforehand. But if you get a notification and you don't act on it, and you've heard in the grapevine that somebody's unanchoring that station, you're gonna get your things out of it that are expensive. And if you don't care about anything else, you just pay the asset safety. And if it was a lot, well, then the leadership would hopefully give you compensation. So why not keep OPSEC? If in the future, here's what I would have done. This is what I would counsel people to do. If you're unanchoring something, and it's a free port, stop. Just don't increase the cost of your clone bay. That'll just rip people off. What you need to do is make an unanchoring access list. Okay, for that particular upwell. And set it so you only allow people, like, You block it, and you name your upwell decommissioning C bio, and in your bio you go, of the upwell, you go contact so-and-so for access to the clone bay so you can get your clones out. And that's all you can do. Right? I prefer a mailing list listed in my bio so people get advance notice of something like this. Like if I was going to anchor one of my master houses, I'd wait an entire month and let people know. Have it named, have that special list. It won't be a Freeport freaking clone base service anymore because I don't want people putting anything in. I want them taking them out. And at the end of that, you can announce, okay, I'm going to be unanchoring, and you start unanchoring. People see that, and what you do a couple of days later is you cancel that and start up right away. Like decommission, cancel decommission a couple of days later, a few days later, start it up again. People have no, you could keep on doing that infinitely until you're happy. You don't have to unanchor it when you said you were going to unanchor it. You've given people notice. And it continues, and then when you're ready, you can, a couple of days before it actually, or 3 days, or who knows, a day before, you can get rid of, offline and rip out your service module, the clone module that's active, or whatever, right? And it goes low power. Everybody gets a notification who's got stuff in there. And if they don't have clones in there, they're going to see the notification as decommissioning, unanchoring, and then go, oh, okay, better go get my stuff. It's not going to take them forever. You could give them a couple of leeway, like say 3 days before, just in case they're casual players, but you do not owe it to these people to get their assets out, okay? You do not owe it to them to bend over backwards for this. You're going to unanchor. They're lucky to get any notification. Most people just don't give it, okay? All right? So they've gotten a notification. The notification email says the name of the station as decommissioning C bio. Duh. All right? So then you can explain yourself if you want. Most people don't. But that's what I would suggest. This is what I would do. And then eventually you would unanchor. You'd warp through it, scoop it, gone, done. Easy as pie. There are no rules for this socially, and in Eve, most people are going to be D-bags, especially in ISEC. So it's like, I do not keep any. Well, a couple of like the really trusted stuff, like Tranquility Training, and you've seen them. They've been around forever, so. Sorry. Yeah, it's just I don't trust it. It's really expensive. I keep my clone costs so extremely low for everybody, right? 20,000. I think 90,000 is the most expensive. I alter the cost for each, so I can look in the wallet and say, okay, that person just used that Upwells facility. That's the only way you can tell. Otherwise, it's just a mess. Trust me. When you got more than one. Yeah. There is no issue. Their stuff, when you unanchor, their stuff will go in an asset safety automatically. And it doesn't cost them anything to do so. It just costs them to get the assets out. And if they've stuffed all their expensive things in there and they're screaming and hate you, because what can you do? You're not going to reimburse these people because you don't know them, and they could be trying to scam you. I mean, if you're that nice, they'll try to scam you, because people like that don't like nice people, So yeah, take it easy. Do or do not give advance notice. I think everybody now understands how vulnerable their clones are, but how they can get asset safety, and it's no big deal unless the structure goes abandoned. And I think a lot of people have experience with that by now. So, yeah. Remember, this is, don't get excited. This is tranquility. I mean, singularity, sorry. Yeah. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so at all. Nope, a fortizar is a cast iron bitch to scoop. You know, if it's anything less, then use a bloody biter. Easy peasy. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Nope. That's it. Thanks, guys.